Good afternoon. Welcome back to Virtual Coffee with Francois. Really nice to have you all here. Extremely excited about my guests today. We've been having a talk just now and I almost missed to go live on time. So it was excellent. But thank you very much for being with us this afternoon. You know, we usually go live 8 a.m. in the morning. And this is the second time that we're doing it in the afternoon. The first one was with Ross Bernstein. And that was also great to celebrate our 50th episode. And today I'm very fortunate to have Brian Parsley with us. And I'm pretty sure that there's several of you that do know Brian. He's a regular coming to South Africa. And, so really, really fortunate to have him with us today and to be able to chat to him and for you to also ask questions as we go through. So really make the most of this opportunity. I will introduce him to you in a second. So, thank you very much. As I said, I'm not going to do a lot of hellos and announcements and all that stuff as I usually do. So I really want to get into this show today so we can get maximum time with Brian. I'm just quickly going to run. You've got Kobus in the house. Kobus, good afternoon. Very nice to have you here and to see you. Thank you very much for joining us and for setting or putting me in touch with Brian. So that was amazing, and I really appreciate it. So quite a few people in the house, all the regulars and some new people I see here for the first time. So very nice to have you all here. So we are live on LinkedIn as well as on YouTube. And I just want to say thank you very much for spending this afternoon with us. So let me get on with it. And I just want to take this off the screen quickly. Let's go there. There we go. All right. So let me introduce Brian to you just quickly. So Brian is a former president of WeSkill, and he guides business leaders on how to increase their sales performance and solidify customer loyalty. And on the show, we've spoken quite a bit about, customer experience and also communicating with clients and giving feedback and getting feedback from clients, etc. But also then, sort of how can we drive what it is that we're trying to achieve and putting the client at the center of all of this. So that is something that's been a theme throughout all the episodes that we've done. And this is exactly what Brian does. And he teaches this across multiple industries, So although he's very well versed in the financial services space, he also works in the technology and retail and healthcare. And that's what I've always said. And I've also brought this up a couple of times in the show is that, we can learn so much from other industries, and to have somebody like Brian with us today that has got exposure to different industries, and see how we can take almost the best of things from the different industries and bring it to financial services, I think is really amazing. For those of you that know or don't know that Brian, he speaks, all over the world. He's got workshops that he presents, and he's also a frequent guest on Fox News, and he's also a management consultant to several Fortune 500 thought leaders, so I think, the exposure that he gets from that and the things that he learns and not only teaches other people is really, really phenomenal. So Brian, from me, Francois here in South Africa, let me welcome you to the show. Really, really nice to have you here. Thank you very much for taking the time to do this.
It is a pleasure. Yeah, I was just checking out the chats over there on the other side. You're famous.
You reckon? Not yet. We're working on it. But thank you very much, Brian. I'm really excited to get into this. There's so many things that we can actually talk about. And we decided, sort of before the show in our email communications and things, we're just going to let this flow and see how the conversation goes. So there are a few things that I do want to talk to you about that I think is going to be very valuable. And that's why I sort of leaned on is leading to the communication and conversation kind of part, because that is one of the things that I think a lot of financial professionals have been having. I won't say a hard time. It's been difficult and a energy draining kind of time, having these conversations, difficult conversations with clients over and over and over again. And under the best of circumstances, it's sort of always a challenge as well, is how do we go through this? So that's what I thought I wanted to focus on. But I just want to invite everybody, if you want to ask questions, whether it's related to sales or the conversations and the things that we're going to be talking about, please, you're more than welcome to ask them in the chat. I will get to them at the end. I'm not going to answer them as we go through, but I will go through all the comments and then relay them to Brian as well. And he can also see the comments on his side. So, very, very excited to get into this. Brian, I want to sort of get off with, if we talk about communication and conversations and that, it's easy to talk to people, but what makes communication really effective? What would be, if I think about how I engage with you, for example, I mean, what would make that really, really effective? So that meaning that you're getting out of it and I'm getting out of it, and we are both on the same page. What does that really mean?
Hey, thank you. I think what we have to do is look at, is this personal or is this professional, and what is the outcome? I think our goal for most relationships, even if it is personal, our goal is to manipulate other people. And I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? Especially in sales. Your goal is to manipulate other people, but there's a caveat to that: to manipulate with good intent, your heart. And a lot of times that's the part we forget. Now, you still may be a little bit on the fence, like the whole word manipulation has this negative connotation, but a parent does it all the time. We want what's best for our child. Sometimes we must manipulate them in order to look out for their best interest. And also, if you think about human behavior, many people don't understand that the key to communication and effective communication is building rapport. Once you have rapport, then you have trust. No rapport, no trust. No rapport, no relationship. So if we know that, what's the secret? And this delves down into the area where we say everyone is self-centered and egotistical. Everyone. And if you don't believe me, whose picture do you look at first in the group photo? You have the hottest, cutest kid, hottest wife, whatever. And you're like, yeah, I need to redo this. Let me do this again. Right. So
yeah,
I think that when we understand that basis of what's behind the curtain, then we can begin to target why we do what we do every day. Why do we communicate the way we do? And is it in terms of them, or is it just in terms of me? I think one of the most powerful questions you can ask anyone is a question about them, but it makes them respond in terms of me. The most powerful question in the world is, are you ready? You might want to write this down. Will you marry me? That is a powerful question about the other person, but they actually respond in terms of me. And again, we're oversimplifying for that question, but that's the direction that all communication stems from.
Sure. I never thought about it like that. And it's extremely powerful to say. And it's also, as you say, it's very simplistic to say, you ask the question to the other person, but it's also actually about me, and sort of that answer needs to come back to me. Is how I'm hearing it at the moment. And it sounds like an easy thing to do, but I'm pretty sure that it's not so easy. So I wonder if that is what effective communication sort of is, where does purpose fit into this? And does it fit into this? I mean, does purpose even impact on the way that I communicate?
Sure. Well, first off, allow me to make a book recommendation. And unlike most speakers, it's not mine. Okay. It is called A Man's Search for Meaning. And it was written by Viktor Frankl. He was a survivor of Auschwitz. And what's the most powerful thing about his book, A Man's Search for Meaning, was people can find purpose through suffering. And it's an amazing book because it's interesting that the people that should have died in many cases because they were stronger and younger, or they should not have passed, did. And the older and sometimes even weaker survived. And as he began to uncover this, he said there were those that actually had a reason for being there, greater than themselves, to push beyond that. And I find that is really important. So if I ask you a question, and there is no right or wrong answer, you don't even have to say it out loud. Maybe let's think of it more rhetorical. Do you know your why in life, your purpose? And for most of us, we really just don't. We kind of, and I'm not trying to get really deep here, by the way, but if you think about it, if we want to understand why we do what we do, we have to understand the way our mind works and operates on the back end. And no matter how big or how small, every time you even make a decision, we go through what's called an interpretation response. Now, what does that mean? That means that everything that we do is driven through three things: your mind, your body, and your emotion. And this isn't complex, but this will make sense. Let me really give you an example. Let's say you wake up this morning and you say, I'm going to get a cup of coffee, and making that simple choice unconsciously, things that you don't even know what's going on right now, not your conscious, your unconscious. Your mind is going, okay, I'm considering the time it's going to take to actually get up and do that before I need to get out of the house to go exercise or, go to a meeting if we were back to normal, that type of thing. So maybe your mind will say, do I even need a cup of coffee? Then it goes into body. You thought whether or not, well, is coffee going to give me the perk that I really need? Or maybe I need to actually look at something different, like a substantial breakfast that actually may be even a little better. And then emotion, you start reflecting and go, gosh, I say I need coffee. I'm used to getting coffee, but do I really need coffee? And what's funny is that we go through this process a million times a day, constantly making decisions. Oh, should I take a drink now, or will he see me take a drink? And you don't even realize it's happening. We go on autopilot. And so here's my challenge for you. And by the way, let me give you a really great example. If you have I'm going to make an assumption, you have a left foot, okay? And if you have a left foot, I want you to concentrate on your big left toe. No matter where you are, sitting in bed, sitting at a desk, whatever. Wiggle your toe, feel the pressure of that big left toe as it touches the ground. Now, if you don't have a left toe, do your right toe. And as you're sitting there, I go, okay, so don't even think about that anymore. It becomes very difficult because now, I know I've cursed you because now all you can do is feel your toe. It was there the whole time. You were feeling it that whole time. But what happens is that your conscious mind can only, here's a fact. We are hit with over 2 million bytes of information every second. 2 million bytes of information every second. And our mind can only control 120,000 of those things. That breaks down to about 7 things. You physically, mentally, emotionally can only deal with about 7 things at one time. That's why you're not thinking about breathing. You're not thinking about blinking. You're not thinking about how your left leg or your right leg or your fingernail. It's interesting when you consider how many things operate on autopilot. And so what I'm suggesting in this first part of purpose is what you focus on becomes that reality, right? And so are you a student of saying, what do I really want to be? And how is it that I'm going to get there? This pandemic has really brought to the forefront the uncertainty that people have in their life and their relationships. And people begin to panic. And if you squeeze an orange, you know what you're going to get. But it's not until you squeeze a human that you see what they're really made of.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful understanding.
Yeah, very much so. And so if you're very clear on sort of that and what you're really about and what your why is, I mean, does that automatically influence your choices, or will you still have to, as you say, if you focus on something, you become aware of it and it's there. So do I then still need to focus a lot on my choices, or will this why almost automatically guide the choices that I make?
Yeah, that's a really, and by the way, the views and opinions expressed by Brian Parsley do not necessarily reflect those of any psychology. Okay, don't make any decisions based on what I say. Here's the reality.
Accepted.
Exactly. We think we know, but we really don't. We think we know, but we base everything we do on the narratives or stories of our past. You see, that's why people are prejudiced. And I'm not talking about race or religion. Prejudice means to prejudge. We prejudge our own ability based on what we believe to be reality. Whether it's true or not, it becomes that reality for us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So our own stories hold us back of our own potential. And too many of us are looking for perfection. They get that snapshot on Instagram, and then all of a sudden they believe, they go, my goodness, my life sucks because look at her. But that's not reality. Yeah.
So what must I master to get this right? Is there certain things that I can work on that's going to make this easier for me?
Well, here's my thing. First off, there's no such thing as perfection, only potential. Second of all, take a look at who you hang around. That's the old adage, right? You become the sum of your 3 closest friends. And here's one thing that I know to be true. Poor people hang out with poor people, typically. And complainers and negatives, and look at even our political affiliations. People tend to hang out with those same people. And what we're really doing is identifying that we're weak when we're not able to open up and expose ourselves to other viewpoints. And I think that we have to stop putting labels on ourselves. Like you just mentioned, like, what do I have to do that? It's a journey, baby. It's something that we work on, we work for, we're never going to master. And I think if you have the sensory acuity to just recognize these things, then life really kind of unfolds in a different way.
Yeah. So, I mean, any sort of relationship or any kind of, conversation, depends on how much trust there is between whoever's conversing in conversation and communicating with one another, because I think that's a fundamental that will allow certain information to be shared or not shared. So the higher the level of trust, the more you will learn about one another, and the more you can communicate, and the more you can enter into deeper conversations. And I think you talk about the 4 rules of trust. Can you share some of that with us?
Yeah, no, that's proprietary. I can't.
Okay.
No,
can we send it back?
It's funny. What's more important? Let me ask you this. What's more important, that they like you or that they trust you? I'd love to see the comments on here.
Yeah.
What's
So
in a relationship, that they like you or that they trust you? What is greater? What do you believe? If I'm just going to look at some of these comments, people write like or trust. What are you going to put down? What do you think, Francois?
Yeah. So I think it comes down to trust, because I've seen people, they may not like you, but they will still do business with you if they trust you. I don't like him, but I know that he does the right thing. So I think, from that, but often like is the first place we start, would be my answer.
Yeah. So fun. It's funny. Everybody's saying without a doubt, trust. Trust is incredibly important. If you were, let's pretend I'm on a first date and I take her out, really fancy dinner, Wimpy's. And is that too much? Too soon? But at the end of my date, I walk her back to her place and I kiss her on the cheek. She walks in, calls her friend, says, "You know what? I did not like that guy, Brian, but I trust him." So I think that you kind of nailed that in there when you said, look, you have to like someone before you trust someone. And in theory, that makes a lot of sense, because if you think about why you trust someone, and you ask these questions, is it the way they talk? Is it the way they treat other people? Perhaps it's a gut feeling when you meet someone. But the reality is the value of trust is directly related to the rules that are aligned to it. Think of trust as your reputation. Think of trust as a currency. It's a bank account. But the 4 rules of trust are actually pretty simple. Number 1 rule, people are hardwired to want to trust other people. It is a human desire and belief that we want to believe other people. Number 2, if someone trusts you and you deliver what it is that you committed to, and by the way, you may be thinking huge things. I'm talking about if I say I'm going to call you, I call you.
Yeah.
Little things, right? Their trust will continue to grow. And certainly that emotional bank account is going to grow with it. Rule number 3 is, if someone trusts you and that trust is broken, they will likely not trust you any more than 10% of the value of the broken trust. So you now have to go and recover to rebuild that trust back with someone, right? And I think that the 4th one, which you have the least control over, and we can even talk about it in more detail, is the amount someone trusts anybody or anything is directly tied to their own self-esteem. In other words, the amount of risk they're willing to take will actually vary from person to person. I have a higher trust. I'll trust you until otherwise you demonstrate something. Where some people, it takes a long time to get into that inner circle to begin with. And if you're in sales, that's the juggle and the difficult part about your job.
And that's sorry, it's like my mind goes racing when we talk about these things, and like saying that's directly related to your own self-esteem. Now, and as I said, I mean, I know a lot of people who like, they meet you, they like you, they trust you. It's just like everything goes until proven wrong or proven otherwise, as you said. And then I'm one of those people who, like, in my younger days, I was like, I started at 0 and you need to build up your points with me. So, but I never thought about that, I mean, if that is directly related to self-esteem, it answers a lot of questions. And it's, I mean, at the end of the day, how does this link into beliefs? If we think about, how much of that has got to do with your own beliefs, about certain things or about people or about, because as you say, we were inherently built to trust, because we are built to build relationships. We want engagement. We want connection. We actually crave that. But what happens where certain people will sort of move away from that? And, does beliefs have anything to do with that?
I think that, when I say people are hardwired, when I say it's human nature, I mean, it's hard coded into our brains. We are fundamentally social creatures. Trusting and helping other people have always banded us together in tribes, right? Communities. It's interesting. I can grab a South African. I just did a webinar with Rob Hersoff and Jordan Belford, the Wolf of Wall Street, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And we were talking about that, how it's interesting. What I love about South Africans is you can literally take a South African, strip them naked, and put them in the middle of the bush, and they're going to say, "Near, no problem. We'll make a plan." Like this fortitude and understanding. If you bring two South Africans together, amazing things happen. That's one of the great things I love about the country. Not to mention my wife, obviously South African, so I kind of am fed well, as you can see, and she treats me great. But I think that what happens is part of our genetic makeup is we want to trust other people. Now, there's 3 basic human needs that everyone has. Everyone wants to feel important. Okay, VIP, want to be able to be recognized, maybe not publicly, but personally. The second thing is feeling important. Feeling important, feeling appreciated. That's another huge one. If that was a currency, it'd be accepted around the world. And people want to be liked. They want to feel, and that's where that likability factor comes in. Usually all we need to trust someone, Francois, is a reason. So my challenge to you is give someone a reason to trust. So let's use a car dealership as an example. Ford is one of my customers. And when I go down to a dealership and I ask anybody, even, it doesn't matter where I am in the world, do you trust salespeople at a car dealership? How many people raise their hand? The car salesman. That's pretty much it. So how do you break through that? Well, instead of walking in, it's like, how you doing today? Can I offer you a, what kind of payment are you looking for? What's your credit look like? How about we go in with this different mindset, give them a reason to want to trust you. Hey, welcome to Fury Ford. My name is Brian, and we don't know each other yet, but I'm actually not in sales. My job is to arrange a test drive, answer any questions you have at any point, and then I'm going to want you to go home and maybe drive other cars, but you make the decision that's best for your family. Now, that sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? But what I've done is lowered the mask of trust, giving them a reason to say, I'm now their affiliate. When I work with service departments at dealerships, the very first thing that I do when I come in, Francois comes in, I have an appointment service. I don't know you. We're talking. Hey, Francois, before we get started, do you have your mobile? I'm going to text you. Let me get your mobile number. I'm going to text you my name and just save it as Brian Ford. And that way, at any moment you broke down, a light comes on, you have a question about your vehicle, even if it's 5 months from now, all you have to do is go in and grab Ford. You'll have me. You can SMS me, and I'm happy to answer any questions. What do I do there? Creating rapport and relationship, giving them a reason to trust me. Because, and what this means is that people will double down on people they trust. If someone trusts you with something, you succeed with that trust, they will double down that investment. They will every single time. Yeah. And I will say that people take broken trust really hard. And if someone does something to break your chain of trust, your willingness to trust them again will plummet. It was a couple of years ago, there was Nikki Case did a study and found that the majority of people will absolutely shut down their ability to trust someone the first time they recognize that person broke their trust. And we're talking like 90% or more. And this is why it's so essential to maintain rapport and continually take action. Let me show you one more thing. Why does this happen? Because innately, we don't want people not to trust us. Innately, we don't want to let people down, but we get scared. If we can walk away today, anyone listening to this, the one thing you walk away with is have transparency. Doesn't always have to be positive, but you must have transparency. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being a horrible conversation, 1 being, 1 being horrible, 10 being fantastic. If it's an 8 or below, I'm picking up the phone or face-to-face. There's not a chance I'm delivering something over SMS or in an email if it's neutral or below, because all that does is opens up for interpretation to their reading that comment, right? And that's why people are misunderstood and misheard, and then again impacts their level of trust with other people.
So what then if let's say there was a something that happened, it's one of your but any of your clients, it doesn't matter if it's a big or a small client, if it's one of your clients and you care very much about all your clients, but something went wrong and the trust was damaged in that process. Is there a way to salvage that? Is that 100% dependent on the other person, whether they will allow you an opportunity to do that, or are there things that I can do to savor that trust and that relationship?
3 words. Please forgive me. That's it. We need to stop saying sorry. Sorry is not a circumstance. Sorry is a state of being. And we need to change our language. Language is, this is a whole other podcast, but language is such a powerful tool, because let's use a basic thing here. Let's pretend, Francois, are you married or happy?
Both, luckily. Like literally.
Let's say that your significant other, they say something to you and they're full of it. And all of a sudden you turn to her and you say, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's not what I was saying. That's a very common response. Would you agree?
Yes.
I'm sorry you feel that way. Now imagine if we took that same message and we just engineered it a little bit. And I said, instead of, I'm sorry you feel that way, that's not what I meant. I said, I would never want you to feel that way. That wasn't my intent. Do you feel the difference in that language?
Yeah, sure. There's a massive difference.
So instead of saying, I'm sorry, which is the same as, how's it? Really, truly being able to say, Francois, I let you down. Please forgive me. That one act can change so many relationships right off the gate, right? But you know what you must have for that? Humility. I'm human. I will let you down. And here's something else probably worth jotting down, at least mentally. We judge other people based on what they say and what they do. Can you believe I just saw him do that or say that?
Yeah.
How do you want to be judged? You want to be judged based on your intent.
Yes.
That's not what I meant. So imagine if we gave, this is a crazy word, grace to other people. Grace.
Wow.
And I will tell you that when people do screw up and they want to write a letter, you cannot write your way out of conflict. You just can't. Human requires communication. And that translates around the world, no matter where you are. And I'll say one last thing about that. It's also incredibly important to show vulnerability. So many people are afraid that that's going to make them weak, but it actually makes you more human. And that's one of the big things that I really like to preach out there.
Yeah, I subscribe to that as well, Brian. I think that just also shows your level of authenticity as well. If you can be vulnerable, and it's not the easiest thing in the world. I think so many of us are trying to sort of fake it till we make it kind of thing. I think that's a big part of that, where you and it's not always just about being here and saying actually it's not going well, or it's this or it's that. It's just being you and just being human. That's what we mean with being vulnerable. It's not about almost saying sorry that I live, or please forgive me for living. And that, it's not about that. This is really about just being, you know what, I also have challenges. You have challenges. We're all facing different things at the moment. And let's be open and honest about that. I think that goes a long way as far as that is concerned. Our words have a lot of power in them. And when we talk about certain things, we tend to possibly frame it in a specific way always. It's just like how you talk, for example, but that sends specific messages. I always want to say into the universe, apart from into the world. It's just what you speak, and the way that you say it. Is that where the difference comes in between, like, where I have a certain intention, but what people are hearing and seeing is different because of that?
Yeah, so let's talk about that, and then I would love to answer this question. I was reading over here with Amanda John. If you see that comment that she put on there.
Yeah, I see.
There's a 738-55 rule. 738-55. 7% of communication are the actual words that you use. Okay. 38% is how you say it, tonality, cadence. That 38%. And 55% is body language. So imagine if you took away body language and you took away tonality, and now you're just expecting someone to read an email and understand what you're saying. You're at 93% deficit right there. That's why I never underestimate the power of conversation or face-to-face, so we can see each other. Look at us right now. We're from all over the world. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, in America, making America great. And listen, you're all the way in South Africa, yet instantly we're communicating, and you can see, my face, my killer dad bod, all these things come through, and we can communicate in a totally different way than if we were doing this podcast over, say, email, right?
Yeah.
So that's really important there on the front side. But I also believe that tonality drives so much in terms of, I use this really basic example, Francois. I'm going to make a comment to you. I didn't say the man beat his dog. What did I just say to you? It's not a trick question, though. I didn't say the man beat his dog, Francois.
Yeah. So you're asking what am I hearing?
What did you hear when I said that?
That the man didn't beat his dog.
Okay. So what if I could change that to mean different things? That same sentence by tonality, by cadence. Francois, I didn't say the man beat his dog. 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 Each of those have a totally different implication based on how I said it. So imagine how you write something and someone reads it with a different tonality could change the entire context of, and then we wonder why they don't get it. We wonder why people get frustrated. All I told her was that we couldn't do it right now. But yet what they read was, we will not do this right now.
Yeah.
And that's why you can't leave that up to interpretation. So with Amanda's question, she said, why do you believe that it takes financial advisors so long to gain the confidence to initiate communication with prospective clients without talking sales, products, and realize later, in most cases, it works against them? Because in financial services, people are not buying products. Now, occasionally you'll get that unicorn. But I can tell you right now, most people are not super excited to talk about dread or talk about life cover or talk about all these other things. So again, it's about positioning you as an expert. What value do you bring them? Don't go in trying to sell them a service or a product. Go in there with the mindset of, let me give you 5 tips to help you stay healthy. Things that are going to help you save money, to be able to prepare for your future. Because this is the thing. People either live in denial or they're panicked all the time. I don't want to eat cat food when I'm 65, but at the same time, there's the other person that goes, it'll happen. Things will work out. Yeah. And in between, you have to guide them and mitigate that risk. Now, how would I do that? Well, the first thing I would do, much like my Ford example, is going in and saying, Francois, we don't know each other yet. I know we will, but The fact is, I'm not here to sell you insurance. My job is going to be to educate you and your family. I'm going to show you the reasons why most people find this to be a peace of mind that we're providing, and why some people don't believe that. And then at the end of the day, I really want you to make the most important decision for you and your family. Now, let's fast forward to one thing. Think about life cover. Here's one of the biggest challenges I find financial advisors are faced with. They get there, I meet with Francois, I meet with his wife, they sign up for, $5 million in life cover. And then I'm all excited. I'm going out. I've already spent the commissions, and then they lapse. First month, they're like, "Oh, screw this." That's because we didn't show them enough reasons to want to stay. So in that example, I would say at the end of us signing up everything, I'd say, by the way, Francois, I want to say congratulations to both of you guys, because you just did something right now that most people don't. And that is understanding that you're protecting your family and your future, because we don't know what we don't know. And here's what's also very interesting. What we have found over the years is it could be 1 month, could be 2 months, 5 months from now, but there will be a month that one or both of you are going to look at each other and say, this $1,500 we got to spend this month, I don't know if we have the money to do that. And you're going to question this investment. And here's why. Because it's not a phone, it's not a car, it's not a TV or a couch. It's this thing that sort of sits out there. But when you have that thought, I want you to know it's normal. And I also want you to remember this conversation, the fact that you're doing this so your children with 100% certainty are going to be taken care of, that you're not going to have to worry about them and their future. That's what it is that you're doing today. And I want to say thank you for that. That type of conversation is going to drive a totally different outcome, because if it does come up, remember he said that that's going to happen. This is normal. And basically we're pre-framing and manipulating with good intent because we want them to be protected, as opposed to the mindset, I got like $5 million worth of life cover. If something happens to me, my wife and her future boyfriend, they're set, right? But we can't have that mindset. I have to know that it's so if my eyes close for the last time, I'm not panicking at that moment.
Yeah. That's very powerful. Thank you very much for that, Brian. And it's a very practical way. And I love how you demonstrated that, to sort of say, this is the kind of conversation that you would have. And now I'm just sitting here thinking, like, it's such an honest, just coming from a good place, as you said, it's manipulating with good intent. And I think it's extremely powerful. So I'm pretty sure that Amanda and everyone else watching is going to definitely write that down. If you didn't, go watch the recording and listen to Brian again and again and again. I also want to ask you about, often when we get into situations, let's say that same financial advisor goes and sees a client, and how they, I don't know if we taught this way or if it's just our natural sort of way of going about it, but we want to tell people, it's so easy and we don't like it. If you are being told to do something, what do? Usually exactly the opposite. But it's sort of our natural, even though we don't like to be told, we still tell other people what to do. And it's this thing about, what is it? Show, don't tell, or something like that. I can't remember. But how do we get around that, to sort of help other people, but without telling them what to do and sort of leading them, manipulating them with that good intent? How can we do that?
And a specific example would be what?
I don't know. It's just like, maybe like if you get into that situation, let's say financial sitting with a client and say, like, these are all the reasons why you need to do this. So, not just about going, like you just said, thanking them and saying, this is what fantastic thing you did, that sort of afterwards. But while we're in that conversation, say, listen, this is why you need life cover. And these are the reasons. And if you don't do that, then the new boyfriend is not going to be happy or whatever that may be. So it's a case of, instead of telling people what they should do and why they should do it, is there a way around that to lead the client to their own answers and to let them realize why they actually need this? And then, sort of from their point, they don't feel like they were told what to do. They actually made the decision.
What I do during the rapport building process is do nothing but ask questions. I'm going to tell you straight up, my goal today is not to sell you a policy. My goal today is not to sign you up for anything. My goal is to discover uncover and identify what your needs may or may not be. At the end of this conversation, I actually may look at you and say, you're fine. You don't need anything. And even if I do see an opportunity, I also want you to know that my job's not to sell you that, rather allow you to choose what you believe makes the most sense. And during this process, Francois, my goal is to drive emotional and logical certainty for them. You know, logical certainty are features, benefits, price, those things. But that alone doesn't necessarily mean anything if they're not emotionally there as well. So how do you uncover the emotional certainty piece? Because if somebody's emotionally gung-ho and they want, you sold them on, if your kids are going to be on the street, you know, like that's the emotional side. But then logically, that's gonna, if that's not there also, that it's not gonna last, right? So how do you do that? Ask questions. I truly want to ask and find out as many questions as I can. And what happens when you do that, Francois, is when you engage someone in a genuine, authentic conversation and ask them a lot of questions about them curiously, it's amazing what people open up and also what people are willing to do. I'll give you a really great, perfect example, and I'm going to tell you the concept. The concept is repeat what they say near the end of the conversation, every sentence, okay? Now, just as a disclaimer, I'm a practitioner in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, right? So a lot of these things are those Jedi mind tricks that we teach. But repeating the last 2 or 3 things someone says in a curious way. Now, that's important to know because it could sound condescending, but in a very curious way. So we took our phones in to get the new iPhone 11s, okay? And did mine first. I was at the Apple store. My wife did hers. Then he took off the back of her cover as he was almost, halfway through, and he went, "Oh." And I was like, "What is it?" He goes, "There's damage on the back of her phone." Remember what I say to build rapport? Repeat the last 2 or 3 things they say with curiosity. I go, "The phone's damaged?" "Yes, you can see right here. It's got a little hairline crack on the back of that, and we just don't do trade-ins when there's damage." "You don't do trade-ins?" "Well, I mean, typically we just don't do trade-ins, when there's any kind of cracks or anything on the back of the phone." "Oh, you typically don't?" "Yeah, we typically don't, but you know what? Since we're halfway through this already, let's just go ahead and do it this time. Not a problem at all." Right?
Amazing. Real life story.
Oh my God. It's my 15-year-old, she has a boyfriend, and she's like, "Dad, I want to go over to Connor's house. His mom and dad are there." I go, "His mom and dad?" "Well, I think I think at least his mom's there." "You think his mom's there?" "Well, maybe she isn't there. I don't know. I know one of them's there. Let me call him again and find out." It's I'm telling you, it is. When my wife uses it on me, it's usually 3 questions before I even get it. She's doing it on me. And then I'm like, wait a minute, you're tricking me. And that is the power. Building rapport is about asking questions, shutting up, and letting other people begin to talk to you.
So yeah, I'm very like that. That's a brilliant story, and I know my wife is watching, so I can also expect a new Jedi mind trick in my household after this. Thank you for that, Brian. But I'm laughing now, but that's extremely powerful to do that, because I think it gives them time to sort of think about what it is that they've said, and is this really, and it's just. I think it opens up a real clear understanding, because I was listening to you as you were saying, like, you typically don't, it's like, and also now it comes in what you've said before, it's like, where do you put the emphasis and the cadence and those kind of things in that sentence, And is it something that comes naturally to you, or do you have to think about that, like, that, okay, this is a perfect opportunity to do this, or is this now so part of what you do that it's very natural for you?
Well, I'll be 50 years old, right? I know I don't look over 55. But I'll be 50 years old, so I have a lot of years of experience. I did not go to university. I barely got out of what we call high school here. But my mindset has always been one of, I will work harder than anyone else. And I've been a student, and I've stayed a student in terms of understanding why people do what they do. Why do people communicate the way they communicate? And I've always had this, intense pleasure and I guess passion I'm a people pleaser. That's one problem I do have. I want to make everybody happy. Just give it away. But one thing I have found, if you give away too much, there's no value associated to it, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And I think that we all have the ability. It's just listening to that sensory acuity. It's like the great Jim Rohn said. He asked the question, how many languages can a child learn? And the answer is as many as you teach them, because they're sponges. And as adults, our ego gets in the way and many times prevents us from actually reaching our real potential. And that's why here's the other great thing. And this is something that's going to be prophetic. As a child, you can go to the store or the shop, you can go to the mall, they can dance, sing in front of everybody, even if they suck at it, and people just smile, clap. And then when they get old, at the farther extreme, they could go to Woolies and fart and nobody cares either. You're old. He's an old guy, whatever. But in between there, we still have the power of both of those. And yet we don't leverage it because of fear of judgment. That's our biggest enemy, the fear of judgment. What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail? What if you do? If we look at these times right now, it's a defining moment for a lot of people. I'm a straight commission guy. If I don't work, I don't make money, Francois. I don't get a salary. And I have speaking, and my speaking business is zero right now. Zero. I've lost over $500,000 this year just in speaking revenue so far. And then I have consulting, where I work with a select group of organizations as a retainer, helping them with sales messaging, customer service, sales tactics, things like that. And I will tell you this much: I'm not worried. We really want to double down on giving value first. And it's not about getting anything in return. It's truly about the service of others. If you employ that in your own mind, well, I don't really have a lot to give. You'd be shocked what you can give. Even encouragement, you shall share. And if you're able to do that, what you've done, what you've created, why didn't someone else do that? You got 55 million people there. You got one Francois said, I'm going to create my own show. Why is that? You take someone like Kobitz, who by the way, wears a suit and tie to bed just in case he gets a sales call. And it's that commitment that says, I live and I breathe this stuff, but I'm not perfect. I want to be a better father than I had, but I'm not perfect. But again, that's the intent. This is a work in progress. And even with relationships with your clients, you're going to let them down. Why not pre-frame that up front? Hey, from time to time, I'm going to let you down. It's never intentional. And I tell my clients, because I can tell you this, and I do, it would be equivalent to over 18 million Rand a year in just consulting. And with every one of my clients, I do month-to-month agreements, no contracts, month to month. Because if I don't perform, you shouldn't have to pay me. That's my philosophy. So guess what that makes me do every single month? Because I'm month to month. Yep, I earn millions of dollars. Guess why? I work scared. Every day, I work scared. This is it. It's all over. And that to me is one of the most powerful things that we miss is you hold your own destiny. You can blame and be a victim. You can blame COVID. You can blame the political government. You have ANC. We have Democrats, Republicans. We can blame, everything. But that is what is a distraction to what your potential is. That's just my belief. I may be wrong, but I'm not.
Now that's a friend of mine and myself. We've been having this conversation as well. Like, there's everything that goes wrong and everything that goes well. You can always somewhere bring it back to something that you did or didn't do. And taking that responsibility is quite a powerful thing. It's not an easy thing because, most people would not want to. It's always somebody else's fault or something else's fault from that perspective. So there's some form of, I don't know if freedom is the right word, but there's there's something that happens if you say, well, I take all of that on me, and it's because of what I didn't do, or because I did it this way, not that way. And it's not also about blaming yourself. It's just about taking responsibility and say, well, what am I going to do now next? Where am I going to go from here as well? Then I think you've answered.
One more thing. Luke asked a question. He says, an example, you need to save for retirement. I would actually change my language. You don't need to save for retirement. You must save for retirement. So the question is really how much? And the answer is, what lifestyle do you want to live? You have to reverse engineer this and then figure out what you must do in order to get there. Right? And we can't hope, because hope is not a strategy.
Yep.
We have to have that impact on it. There's amazing questions that are coming in here for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm going to look at them now. I want to ask you just because there's a lot of questions that I had that you've answered as you were just sharing with us and that. So I want to ask you a question on if we want to really level up our communication or our conversations. I don't know. Is there a difference between conversation and communication? Is there a difference?
I hope it's not. I hope it's just the same. One of the biggest things that I would say is if you and I had a conversation professionally or personally, you would be talking to the same person. I'm like I said, I'm going to be 50, and I've got to that point now where you don't have to like me. I don't really even care one way or the other. I don't even care about money, to be honest with you. All I want to do is just give value and serve. And because you know what, it's that one person there's one person on this call right now that could change something in their life, then it's a win. Can I share something also for you, Francois, that you and I 100% did not have a discussion about?
You're welcome.
Okay. So I created a strategic workshop on communication, and it's an online program, and it's called Mastering Strategic Communication. And if you were to go to my website, which is brianparsley.com, like the spice, twice as nice, brianparsley.com. Okay. And there's at the top, it'll say the course. And you can read all about what the course is. It's on many of these things that actually, ironically, you're talking about. There's 12 courses. It also includes MP3s of each course. It also includes detailed PDFs of each course. Each one they're short, 5-8 minutes. So we wanted that on purpose because we're all ADHD. If you were to pay for that and you want to enroll, it's $997, which is around 18,000 Rand. Okay. What I would like to do is if you go there, you enroll in the class, your name, email, make a username, whatever. And then on the checkout page where it'll say $997, where's your credit card? There's a coupon code. And I want you to write in the word Francois. And when you do, that will go from $997 to $0. And I want to give that course to anyone on this program. Now, that coupon will expire on Sunday. So you have 4 days.
Yeah.
That coupon will, and when someone emails me on Monday, can I still do it? The answer is no.
No. Take action.
There's a thing called you must take accountability for yourself. You must take advantage of sense of urgency. You must invest in yourself. Now, the only skin in the game you got to do is take action and remember how to spell Francois.
Yes, please. If you don't know, WhatsApp me.
but I just want you to know that I was thinking about that this morning before our call, and I said, now we just launched this particular program a week ago. We have several hundred people now that are on it worldwide, and I also know South Africa has been hit very hard. And I want to be able to do my part to be able to share that back for other people as well.
Yeah, well, I'm dumbstruck. So thank you very much for that, Brian. And yeah, that's amazing. I'm definitely going to enroll as soon as we're done here. I have been looking at that course. So yeah, it is something that I definitely thought that's something that I can do with personally quite a bit. So thank you very much for that. Deeply appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. And in fact, we even created a private Facebook group that you get a link when you sign up if you want to do it.
Okay.
And then we're going to do things like this, little live events, and people have one-on-one access to, ask questions. And I mean, that's the whole idea. I want to create a community of like-minded people that we can serve and help.
I love it. I love it. All right. So let me run quickly through some of the questions and things, or maybe comments that people have had here. Neil Phillips said they have to like you first in order to trust them. And then also Kuketu was just echoing, saying like, I like that trust is a currency. That is very, very powerful. Let me see quickly. Dion said 100% belief plays a huge role also, especially in our industry, our own belief in what we do. And it's something that we struggle with, I think, is, it's not only, we try and convince clients to view things in different ways. So we're trying to influence their beliefs in the way that they view the world. But we often forget to look at our own beliefs and how we view the world, the lenses that we're looking through, because that also influences the way that we do stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Dion, luister alsjeblieft. Jy is baie slim.
That's that. There you have it. There you have it.
But I think that we need to understand that you are a reflection of who you want to be, and people are always watching. You may not think they are, but they're always watching what you do or what you don't do. And that's why even if I'm in public and I'm at a store and somebody's treating me bad, I don't treat them bad back, even though I may want to, not only out of respect, but because that's my brand and I'm not going to be affiliated to being that guy. And we all know one person like that.
Yep. Koba said, powerful. It is all in the words, please forgive me. And Brian Adams even wrote a song about that. So very, very powerful. Let me just run here. Mark said, even on the phone, you can pick up body language, which is very important to see how they are reacting. And also, like, I've been helping a lot of people with their, like, having conversations like this and through sort of meeting through cameras. But I've been telling people, like, you need to use your camera. Don't switch off your camera, because it makes a big difference in the way that we connect with one another. Now that there's a screen and a lens in between us, you must be able to see one another. It makes such a big difference.
Wear pants.
Yes, please.
You never know if you got to go and you forget.
Absolutely. Yvonne is saying always connect it with why it was done. The motivation is embedded with the why, then the commitment stays.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to remind ourselves about the why, because we forget sometimes.
And may I also say, one of the challenges is we confuse being busy with being successful sometimes.
Yes.
And
I have that problem.
Yeah, don't be productive with the things that you do. I don't have it right here because I was on another call outside this morning, but I have my pen and I write down my to-do list every day, because it gives you that sense of accomplishment, and it's linear in the things that you have to approach.
Yeah, very important. Johan is saying, if your client is not part of the whole process from the start to the end, meaning not telling your client all the time what they need. But I think, you answered this one, to get them to make the decisions of what the final product will be, should you need to sell a solution for their needs.
Stop
we answer that one.
If you just stop selling, you'd be amazed how much money you'll make. Share, give. What if you were just a connection? What if I said to someone on here, hey, Francois, what I'd like to do is actually learn more about what you do and the people that you're trying to impact, and I would love to connect you with some other folks. That's how everything. Let me explain why we're here today real quick, okay? This is the example. In 2006, I get a phone call from a guy named Mark Keating, who's the CEO of Sales Guru.
Yeah.
Okay. And he wanted to come over into a seminar at one of their events, but he didn't have the money. Okay. It was too much. So I was like, well, I don't even really know. Why don't you come over here? And he goes, okay, but is there places to stay? Just come stay with me. I don't know this guy. I met this South African guy on the phone that I don't know. And my wife was like going, what? And I was like, yeah. And he came and he stayed with me for a week. And we started chit-chatting and all that. I ended up coming over there. I did a talk. And then of course, I met a gentleman, Johan Mini, with Liberty, and then started working with them. And then my network began to kind of expand and grow out, and done work with, Old Mutual and Discovery and just a bunch of different type of companies in South Africa. But yet, and then I met my wife, my permanent wife, that is. The previous administration's awesome, but I got a permanent wife.
Yes.
And I met her in 2010. And but my whole thing is everything happens for a reason. And what if he said he didn't have the money for me to come over, but I did it anyway? If I did not go, not only would we not be having this conversation, I wouldn't have the most perfect wife in the world. I wouldn't know what a poiky pot is. And I'll tell you, don't underestimate the power of every relationship or every person, even at the petrol station. Be friends, make friends. You'll find success.
No, it's something. I'm just gonna stop everything there, Brian. That's such a high note to end off on. And my wife and I actually have had this conversation a few times, and also in my life, I've experienced where, there was a time in my life when I was like, some of these things you put effort in, but you're like, there's never anything. There's never ever going to come anything of it. And then, like 10 years later, you run into people again, and then you thought to yourself, you know what? You should have looked after these relationships, and don't ever think, because a real relationship isn't something where you do something and you expect something in return. Often a relationship will allow you to pay things forward, and then you do that, it comes back in other ways again. So it's not always about what can I do for you and what can you do for me. Sometimes you do something for me and I'm able to do something for someone else. And that's how the world turns.
Can I tell one last story?
Please do.
Okay. You guys are going to love this story. I was over there a few years ago, and I was at a networking event up in Joburg, out at Lanseria Airport. And there was this long queue of people, and I was there with Ron McKenzie, who's the CEO of Safari Guys. And there was this long queue of people with this guy at the end, and everybody's taking pictures and all that. So I don't know. I walk right to the front of the line. I walk up to him or look up at him, and I say, so what do you do? And not arrogant at all, he looks at me, goes, you don't know who I am? And I'm like, no. He goes, my name is Warren Whiteley. I play for the South African Springboks. And I go, never heard of you. And then he started laughing. He goes, you've never heard of me? I was like, nope. He goes, have you ever been to a rugby game? Nope. He goes, well, we're going to have to get you down there. What if I get you some seats? And I go, no, if I'm going to go, I want to sit on the field and I want to bring you water, during the breaks. And he goes, I like you. The very next day, he and I are having lunch together, and he's a wonderful guy. And we've been friends and, stay in contact and stuff. And then what was also funny, the week before, I met a guy, his name is Werner. And I met him at some other networking event, and he lived in Naval, I think is what you call it, down by a river. Yeah. And he called and he met my wife and I because I said, let's have breakfast. And this was like 2 days before. And he goes, where are you at? And I'm like, we're staying at the Four Seasons. He goes, oh, they have a helicopter pad there. I'd like to come up and see you. So he flew his helicopter in to meet us for breakfast. But after I met Warren Whiteley, I get a call from Werner, who I only met one time, right? And he goes, what are you doing? I go, I'm having lunch with someone. He goes, I'm going to come and I'm going to pick you up with the helicopter in 4 ways. And I'm going to take you out to the Vol. I want to show you my house. And I was like, all right, I don't know this guy. And I was like, but I'm kind of with someone. Who you with? Warren Whiteley. Ask him if he wants to come. And so I go, Warren, there's a guy here I've only met a couple of days ago, and he wants to pick us up in a helicopter and fly to the Vol. You want to go? He goes, yeah, let's do it. So now I'm in the helicopter with this stranger and Warren Whiteley, and we go out there. And I'm telling you, everything freaking happens for a reason if you open your eyes to it.
No, that's an amazing story. I love it. Brian, from me and from everybody here, I can just see all the people saying thank you for the course opportunity that you're giving them. I want to give also a call to action there. It's one thing to go and register, okay, but do it. Work through it. Make sure that you take advantage of this offer that Brian has given you. Just registering and I'll get to it. It's not going to work. It's not going to change anything in your or my life. So let's take full advantage of that. Brian, thank you very much for being with us this afternoon.
Follow me on Instagram. It's just Brian Parsley Speaker. If you like this stuff, I have a lot of videos on there that are 30 seconds. Yeah, I'd love to have everybody join. Family.
Yeah, awesome. So Instagram, and then also your website is brianparsley.com. And obviously on LinkedIn, we can connect with you.
What's the code?
Francois.
Yeah, Francois.
So yeah, Brian, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Please say hi to your wife from us.
Baie dankie, meneer.
Baie dankie. Ons waardeer jou. We appreciate you very much and wish you a wonderful week. And thank you very much for taking the time.
It is a pleasure.
Thank you so much.